Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I don't know if you've noticed recently, but the media has been posting articles about grocery prices going up. And I've noticed it in my budget. I don't know if you've noticed it as well, but I wanted to bring you 20 tips on how to save money at the grocery store. So if that's what interests you and you're looking for some help, stick around and check it out. All right, so we're going to just dive right in um, with number one. Now, I'm sure you can guess what my number one is, and that is to meal plan. And not just meal plan your dinners, meal plan your breakfasts, your lunch, your dinners, and your snacks. That is a huge game changer for my family. Personally, I love planning all of it so that I don't have to guess. It takes all the guesswork out of it for me. And as a busy work at home, homeschooling mom, one less decision I have to make is bliss for me. So I love planning all of my meals and all of our snacks. That way I don't have to worry about running out of food. I don't have to worry about what I'm going to make. I just look at my chart, grab it out of the fridge, and go. I can be on autopilot, and that's just wonderful for me. Okay, so number two would be to try and buy more of the generic and the store brands. Now, I know there are some brand loyalists out there. I am too, and so is my husband. But if you're trying to convert a brand loyalist, try sticking some of the name brand into the store brand bottle. Number three, never shop hungry. I am also guilty of this. You guys know that when I go on my big once a month grocery shops, I am sometimes out of the house for 4 and 5 hours at a time, which definitely means skipping a meal and a snack. So I always bring something with me, whether it's a protein bar or a bag of chips or something just to tide me over. But also, too, I try and take some of the money out of my personal spending money, and I will use that to maybe treat myself to something from Taco Bell or wherever I feel like that day. And I also treat myself to a coffee because if I'm out grocery shopping for 5 hours for the day, I deserve a coffee. So I definitely recommend even packing your own lunch or your breakfast or whenever you're going out. That way you're not shopping on an empty stomach. And number four, shop alone and less often. You guys know I shop once a month for my big haul for the month, and I do a mid-month produce restock, but I also shop alone. Please learn from my mistake. Do not bring your partner and do not bring your kids. My husband doesn't really go into a grocery store very often, so when he does go, he's seeing all of these new things to try, and he impulse spends so badly. And so I have actually taken him with me on my big grocery hauls and end up spending $100, $200, and sometimes $300 more than we planned. So learn from my mistake, you guys. Don't take your partner and don't take your kids. Kids are a huge distraction, and they are also drawn to snacks and treats and want. So just go by yourself so that way you can stick to your list and turn off all of the outside influences and distractions and just go. Number five, stop buying pre-chopped produce, pre-shredded cheese, and prepared foods. They are so expensive. Believe me, I love convenience just as much as the next guy, but take that extra minute to chop up your own vegetables, chop up your own fruits, and shred your own cheese. You save so much money that way. I pretty much stick to blocks of cheese except for organic. The caveat to that for me is organic shredded mozzarella because I can't find blocks of organic mozzarella cheese at the stores that I go to. So I do have to buy organic shredded mozzarella. Unfortunately, I'm hoping that they will add and expand their offerings, but In the meantime, I'm stuck buying the shredded, which that's a give and take for me. But definitely, when you look at the prices compared to blocks of cheese and shredded cheese, a lot of times you're going to save exponentially by buying to the block cheese and shredding it yourself. It also tastes better. It doesn't have any of the powder on it that keeps it kind of like from sticking. I think it's like cellulose, right? So correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't have any of that on it. It melts differently. It's stretchier and gooier, and it tastes better. Number 6, only take what you need as far as produce. So, for example, a bag of grapes. I don't know about you guys, but have you ever bought just the bag of grapes that they have set out for you, and you get to the checkout and it ends up being like $9 worth of grapes? Who is eating that many grapes? Maybe my children. I mean, for sure my children. But also, it's $9 worth of grapes. So now what I do is I bring my own produce bag, or you can use the plastic bag that they have available for you, or you can just use the bag that the grapes come in and take out what you don't want and just put it in another bag of grapes. There's no law or rule saying that that's what you have to buy. It's just how it's being offered to you. You don't have to buy that many grapes. Who's buying that many grapes? If you're buying that many grapes and you're eating them, that's amazing. Most of the time they get wasted. So just buy what you need. Number 7, buy frozen produce. I'm sure you guys know by now, but if you don't, frozen vegetables and fruit are picked at the peak of their ripeness. So they're almost always just as delicious as buying fresh produce. I love me some fresh produce, don't get me wrong, but if you're shopping out of season, stick to frozen. Most of the time, I buy frozen over fresh all the time, especially with things like broccoli, green beans, corn, peas, sometimes onions. If you're looking for chopped onions, buy them frozen. They're way less expensive than fresh chopped onions. Number 8, you guys know that I prefer to buy organic products just for my family. That's how I shop for them. And if you don't, that's okay. This may not apply to you. But if you wanted to try and buy some organic things, but you wanted to do it in a budget-friendly way, you can do what I do. I shop from the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen list. And what that does is it provides you with a list of the top 12 most contaminated produce items that you should consider buying organic. And then on the flip side of that, it gives you a list of the 15 cleanest produce items that you don't necessarily need to buy organic because they're not contaminated. So that is a great way to save money while also picking and choosing what is going to affect you the most and buying that organic. Number 9, stick to smaller items when you're buying fresh produce per pound. So apples, for example, can be gigantic and they weigh a ton, but you can only get 3 of those humongous apples for the price of maybe 6 or 7 smaller apples. You're still getting that single serving, you're just getting more for your money. On the flip side of that, if you're buying organic produce and it's cost per item, buy the bigger items. So one example of this may be crowns of broccoli. And a lot of times crowns of broccoli will go 10 for 10 at my local store. And so I try to search for the biggest item possible because then you're getting more bang for your buck. Number 10, look beyond eye level items. So grocery stores pay millions of dollars to marketing geniuses on how to make you spend the most money possible. And that's putting everything that costs the most at your eye level. If you search beyond eye level, lower or higher, the prices are going to be exponentially cheaper and you're going to get more for your money. That's where they put the big humongous bags of rice or the bigger boxes of pasta. You're going to get more product for your money, and a lot of times it's just going to be the generic brand but cheaper. Number 11, freeze any of your produce that's on its way out. I do this a lot of times with things like bell peppers, onions, celery, things like that, fresh broccoli. You just I like to chop them up and put them in a freezer bag and then freeze them, and they work perfectly in soups, stews, casseroles, things like that. They're just as good and they last so much longer. And that way, if I'm in a pinch and I need something, I always have some on backup in my freezer. If you guys want to see a video on how I keep my produce fresh for longer, or what I freeze and how I do it, just let me know down in the comments, and that's absolutely a video that I can make for you. Number 12, and this is a huge one. This is the one that really helped me to save a lot of money, and that's to use 4 ounces of meat per person in your family. So I have 4 people in my family, which means I use 16 ounces or 1 pound of meat per meal. So instead of making meat the focal point, I like to treat meat as a side dish, vegetables as the main dish, and carbohydrate as an accent. So a meal that I can give you an example of would be meatloaf. I only use 1 pound of meat, and then I just load it up with finely chopped vegetables, gluten-free breadcrumbs, things like that, to really kind of like make it bigger and stretch it out. And then with that, we will have a huge salad, and we'll have steamed broccoli, corn, peas, something like that. So half of our plate is vegetable, and then we have a corner of it that's a slice of our meatloaf, and then a small thing of homemade mashed potatoes. So I'm constantly watching our portion size. I'm definitely making meat the side dish and vegetables the main part of our meal. You can also do this with beans or lentils or tofu, just adding other things that are way less expensive than meat, because meat is so expensive. So I'm really mindful of that when I'm making my meals. Number 13, stick to simple recipes. I am absolutely guilty of scrolling through Pinterest and finding the most complicated but delicious looking recipes that require 20 and 30 ingredients, buying all of the ingredients, spending $50 on one recipe, and then not making it, or making it and hating it and having to order out to have dinner that night. So again, learn from my mistake and stick to simple recipes that you know your family is going to love, with simple ingredients, pantry staples that you already have, so you're using up what you have. It's easy to cook and it tastes delicious. So stick to the simple recipes and skip the fancy ones. I allow myself maybe once a month to make a really complicated recipe and to try it out and to fulfill that want and desire to make these really incredible recipes for my family. But 9 times out of 10, it's not worth it. And number 14, on that same vein of making less complicated recipes, make your own spice mixes. Now for me, it came out of a health necessity. When I was diagnosed with celiac, I had to read every label, and a lot of the spice mixes I was using has MSG, which is also a trigger for me, and soy and wheat even sometimes added, depending on if you're eating a gravy mix. So I had to really come up with ways to either find an alternative or make an alternative. And finding an alternative, I'm telling you, is so expensive. Gluten-free is such a money-making industry. So I have resorted to making my own, and I have found that making my own spice mixes is extremely cost effective. I'm using up all of my spices instead of letting them sit and rot in the cabinet. They're so much more flavorful and they're so much better for you. So I highly recommend making your own spice mixes. You can make a huge batch and keep it in your cupboard or wherever, and going to it when you need it. But I definitely recommend searching Pinterest, searching the internet, and just looking up, homemade taco seasoning, homemade fajita seasoning, homemade brown gravy mix. You will find a plethora of information and really delicious recipes. Number 15, bake your own snacks. Now, let me just say, I do not spend my entire day slaving away in front of the oven for my kids to have homemade baked goods. That's not what this is about. I do like to make homemade gluten-free muffins or a gluten-free pumpkin bread or zucchini bread. Number one, to use up any produce that I have that's going off. Number two, if I really want to have a couple of breakfasts pre-made and they can just heat up a muffin and be done. Number three, if we're going somewhere and I need an easy like travel snack, or if we're in the mood and I think that it's going to be more cost effective for me to make it instead of buying it at the store. I am pretty health conscious with my family and I read all the labels, and so sometimes it's better for me to just make it from home so that I know what's going into it, to avoid things like dairy, gluten, and things like that. But every once in a while I like to make our snacks or make our baked breakfast goods, because it does save a ton of money. Number 16, you don't need to buy all the items to get the deal. So if your store has a 2 for $5 on gallons of milk, let's say, you don't need to buy 2 gallons of milk to get the price. You only need to buy the one for $2.50. My husband did not know this, and we went back and forth on it until I showed him that you did not need to buy all of the items to get the sale price. Now, this may not be the rule for your store, but for almost all of the stores that I shop at, that's the rule. That's the idea, is if it's a 5 for $5, it just means those items are $1 right now, and you don't need to buy all of them to get them for $1. They're just priced at $1 each. That's how they get you. Just buy what you need. Make sure you can check with the store or use a price scanner or ask somebody to scan it for you. But typically, you don't need to buy all of the items to get the sale price. Number 17, and you may be shocked to know this, I don't coupon. I don't like couponing. I think that it can't. Now, if you're an extreme couponer, that's amazing. I could never figure out how to do it. And a lot of the stores have changed their coupon policy to make it harder for you to be an extreme couponer. I don't like couponing because I think that it can promote impulse spending depending on how you're couponing. I just prefer to use the apps that I use. I use Ibotta, I use Fetch. I will use my Meyer app to look for coupons for items that I'm already buying, not items that I'll buy just because it's on sale, or items that I won't use but I'm going to save $1. That's the worst thing you can do. I just use the apps and I scan in the items that I'm already getting, or I'll look for the items that I'm already using and look for coupons that way. I just try to avoid impulse spending as much as possible. If I make a few dollars on Ibotta with what I've already bought, then amazing, and that's even better. But I'm definitely not going to buy something just because I'm going to get $1 back on Ibotta. I hope that makes sense. Number 18, another app that I like to use is FLIPP. If you've never used FLIPP, it is an app that compiles all of the sales papers from stores in your area and allows you to browse their sales papers from the comfort of your own home. I love this app. I'm able to shop all of my store's ads to see what's on sale for the week so that I can make any adjustments needed to my list before I go. You just put in your zip code and it will pull them all up for you. It's an amazing, amazing app. And you can click on items and it will circle and make a list for you. Super simple, super easy, super time saving, and it's free. Number 19, supercook.com. I am horrible at opening my fridge, opening my pantry, and seeing the items that I have and trying to make up some sort of meal out of it. My mother was queen of this. She could take a can of beans and some scraps in the fridge and make this incredible meal that everybody loved, but she could never recreate it. That was the downside. However, I am the worst at this. I have no creativity when it comes to food and cooking. I can follow a recipe with the best of them. Chef's kiss to a good recipe. However, I cannot look in my pantry and fridge and come up with something off the top of my head. I just can't do it. So that's where supercook.com comes in. If you're trying to do a fridge clean out, a pantry clean out, a no spend month, going to supercook.com allows you to put in all of the items that you have and it will pull up recipes based on the ingredients, which is wonderful. So if that's what you're trying to do, or you're trying to come up with a meal plan based on what you already have, I highly recommend that website. And number 20, use $5 a week to stock up on your pantry staples. So I do this pretty much every month, but I have provided you a free printable list down below, and it is inspired by the Organized Mom, who did something very, very similar on her blog. However, I've changed it up a little bit because hers did include things like medications and personal items and things like that. But I just wanted to focus on food, especially if you're feeling food insecure with the prices going up, or you've lost wages from the pandemic, things like that. This will provide you with a list of things to buy for $5 or less each week. You don't have to do it weekly. You can do it bi-weekly. You can do it monthly, however you want to do it and whatever works best for you. Most of the prices come from Aldi. If you don't have an Aldi in your area, Walmart is extremely comparable. I looked up prices online to see which place would be cheaper, and most times, 99% of the time, it was Aldi. However, Walmart is extremely comparable, sometimes only a few cents difference. So if you have access to a Walmart, wonderful. Sometimes local supermarkets can be cheaper too. So I have provided that down below. It's through my Google Drive, and I will put that there for you to print off. And you are more than welcome to print that off and work through the challenge of stocking up your pantry staples each week with $5 or less. So I hope that helps you out. So that is my list of 20 ways to save money on groceries. I hope that you found this helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up so I know to keep putting out content for you like this. I can't thank you guys enough for the support that you've shown my channel. Like I said in my last video, I've seen a lot of growth, and I have exciting new things coming up for you guys. So please leave me some comments down below. Also, if you have more tips on saving money on groceries, please let me know, because your girl is always looking for money saving tips. And this community is incredible about sharing all of their tips and tricks of the trade. I love it so much. I love talking with you guys down below. You guys are the best, and I'm not just saying that. I may be a little biased because I love this community. So thank you so much for checking out my video, and I will check you guys out on the next one. Bye.